Unfortunately, there's no direct flights between.
Okay, good morning. We're a little bit late out there. If you're out there, we'll be underway in a few minutes. Okay. Today we're going off the page. This is not in the script. So we're leaving the script to explain something that I don't know if this is explained, discussed so much, but I have found in my discussions with individuals very important to speak about this subject, and that is understanding our relationship to a Rebbe today. So I described in the earlier shiurim and how Rav Malta was sort of depicting the type of relationship that a student had with the Rebbe, a Talmud had with the Rebbe, was one where the Talmud was seeking something very, very earnestly, and recognized that they were in need of a Rebbe to help them. And the Talmud was prepared to do all sorts of things to be able to have that relationship. And the type of Rebbe that many of the stories that we read about are really of a tzaddik type of personality. The person really has attained truly great madrigos in Torah, great levels in spirituality and closeness to Hashem. And what would happen is the Talmud would invariably become batal to the Rebbe. Batal means to surrender. And as I explained, that would happen not so much as a decision, like I am going to be batal, but as the effect of realizing the greatness, being in the presence of a tzaddik. The type of feeling that should elicit within a person is bittul. Any person of neshama that has a chush, has a sense of it, when you see greatness, so invariably the person becomes batal. Like lahavdil, when the Svarim describe a person contemplating the greatness of Hashem, and the types of feelings that overcome a person when you have the contemplation is of bittul, of complete surrender, because of the greatness, the godless habore. So types of feelings we speak about yira, this great awe and reverence that bring with it a surrender to Hashem, comes from the recognition of Gadluso Yisbarach, His greatness, His infiniteness. So automatically, it's that feeling is the response within the person. And so, for example, you have in the Torah where Avram Avinu and others respond Hineni to Hashem, because Hineni, Rashi says, is the Lashon HaNavim, is the expression of people that are humble. When you recognize greatness, so then the response is Hineni, here I am. I'm ready to do whatever it is you ask. So that response comes from someone that recognizes godless greatness. So the bittul that a Talmud would have to the Rebbe was almost like an automatic. So it was like it's simply a recognition of that person. And Memela, and automatically is that response. And that's a absolutely necessary feeling in Yiddishkeit, a person to develop, the idea of bittul. Our whole relationship to Hashem and the ability for a person to climb is the readiness to surrender. Anyone that has made the journey from outside of Judaism to become a Jew, anyone that's made the journey from not being observant to being observant, understands that when a person recognizes something, so then there's the truth that's there, then there's a bittul, there's a surrender that happens because of that. If this is true, so then over time a person comes to a realization and recognition that I must. And so although that happens over time and there's struggles back and forth, but that comes as an outcome of an encounter with something that's true. So that feeling of having bittul, surrender, is absolutely essential midah. It's what's really known as anava. When we talk about anava, humility, really we're speaking about bittul. The person is ready to surrender. And the more the person is willing to surrender, the higher they are. So the person climbs, the closeness to Hashem is as much as they're willing to surrender. And there's all sorts of, and I don't mean surrender as in a passive way. Sometimes when this is spoken about in other cultures, other religions, especially Eastern religions, so this has a certain passivity. It's not passive. For a person to hold back on a desire that they have, and a person to be able to go forth and to do something for Hashem, that requires them to really go out. It's not passive. This is a very active type of thing. It requires an incredible amount of energy and Milchama ruchanis, spiritual struggle. So not to confuse surrender with passivity or surrender with this certain stillness. Surrender means the willingness to give up on what one may want, or the willingness to go forth and do something that is courageous, even though it's the person would have feelings otherwise. But to have the courage and the readiness to go forth is anything but passive. It's very active. But that quality of bittul is absolutely a necessary quality. So when one has a Rebbe, one begins to really practice that. Because as I mentioned, the Rebbe, Rav means greater than. And therefore the relationship with the Rav, the greater than, should be a relationship of bittul. So here I want to sort of now transition into the second type of Rebbe. When you talk about the bittul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem, so that bittul really, in truth, is absolute. In practice, we're a human being with all sorts of wants and desires. But in truth, the bittul, surrender to Hashem, is absolute. The Torah guides us when we're supposed to have complete bittul and surrender even your life, and when you're not. So we have guidance from the Torah on the nature of the surrender. But the surrender is to Hashem and to His Torah. It's absolute. When one meets a tzaddik, it means a genuine tzaddik, surrender is also absolute. That's what it is. When the Talmud met his Rebbe, and that Rebbe was a tzaddik, the surrender was absolute. Now, it doesn't mean that the student, the Talmud there, didn't express their personality. The Talmud was still a Talmud. The student was a student as his persona was. But the readiness to heed the Rebbe's guidance, the readiness to follow his advice, the readiness to walk in that path, is absolute. Now, all of this sounds awfully strange to people in the modern age, or people in the modern age that don't have this relationship. So part of the issue is that we're not used to a relationship like that. We don't have that concept. Even people that we would call a rabbi that would not be of that nature isn't that type of relationship. Today, things are turned around. The rabbi, or the person, that Rebbe, is the caterer. He has to cater to the pupil. You think about it, right? So if the parents are paying the tuition for the school, right? So who does the Rebbe have to please? Okay. And if the congregants are paying the rabbi's salary, so who does the rabbi have to please? Okay? So we're not used to this notion because things have been flipped around, and that the role of the rabbi or the Rebbe has to be the caterer, has to cater, to provide what you're looking for. And if you don't like it, so you go somewhere else. I'll find something else. I'll find a different congregation. It's a very different world. And the Talmud, the student's not coming with the same desire. He's coming to school because he has to go to school. And a person joins your shul because what are they going to do? Daven by themselves? So this whole nature of relationship is very different. Talking about someone's mamish desiring to have a Rebbe, someone to bring them close to Hashem, the recognition that without you, how could I do it? the feeling that I receive inspiration and I'm mobilized, I'm on fire to become myself because of you, that's not necessarily what's going on. So the whole notion of a Rebbe like that is very foreign to us. Everything we know is the Rebbe has to be careful not to say this and not to say that, and not step on this person's toes and this with the board. And the Rebbe, if he says something wrong in the school, getting email with the parents. So it's a very different relationship. So it's not a wonder that when I'm describing this, so people are like, not really sure. But that's what a Rebbe is. I'm saying it's olam hafach. The world is upside down. If a person wants to gain that which you gain from a Rebbe, you have to acknowledge the relationship for what it is, what it's supposed to be. So while it's true we have it's different in our constraints, the nature of the relationship and the truth of what it is, and anyone who wants to gain from the relationship of what it is, you have to treat it as it's supposed to be. And this is fundamental. The Mishnah in Avos establishes basic relationships that we need for Yiddishkeit. So we have a Mishnah that says, "Asay lecha Rav," you should make for yourself a Rav, a Rebbe. Knei lecha chaver, acquire for yourself a friend. You have another Mishnah that says, "I've learned much from my Rebbes, and more from my colleagues, and the most from my students." So the Mishnayos are establishing basic spiritual relationships that we need. Again, very foreign. What do you mean? If I want to know something, I'll Google it. The whole idea that there is to learn from others. And what is that learning? It's very foreign. But the Mishnah established basic spiritual relationships for this health of the person. They're essential. There's Rebbe, there's Chaver, and there's also Talmud. There's having a Rebbe. There's having Chaverim, friends. And there's also having students. So these types of teachings require a person to really rethink just what's accepted, what's normal today, and to really return to what are the essential relationships for the development of a person in ruchnis and spirituality, as are described in our sources. And while they may be different, and we have to make distinctions, you always have to go back to the source. If you don't go back to the source and what it's supposed to be, then you're not going to have what it is. Then the relationship that you're going to have is going to be very, very lacking. It doesn't make a difference how smart your computer is. The computer will never be your Rebbe. I have a close friend and a Rebbe in the old city. He used to say, my computer's very smart, but when it walks into the room, I don't stand up. So what it means to have a Rebbe and what it's described is very different. And you wouldn't necessarily understand that by simply, if you're stepping in the modern age, and if you don't have that background. Even in school, I tell the children, his name isn't Rabbi, his name is Rebbe. So that's the first point. Rebbe implies a relationship. Rabbi implies a position. And someone that is seeking that relationship, the name is Rebbe. That's the name. Rabbi is Rav Shali, my Rav. Not just Rabbi of the congregation, that simply acknowledges this person is the rabbi. Maybe he has a title, maybe he's earned a certain certificate, perhaps he has a position. But Rebbe is my teacher. We say Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is our teacher. So everyone collectively accepts Moshe as our Rebbe. He's our Rebbe. And for a Talmud, like in the classroom, to be able to say Rebbe, not Rabbi, is a completely different thing. It's totally different. That establishes relationship. And we find from Chazal very extraordinary things that are said about that place of Rebbe. So let's share some of the teachings of Chazal. So Chazal say that Shimon HaMsuni, he darshaned every S in the Torah. Shimon HaMsuni, he was able to derive a teaching for every word S, et, in the Torah, which is almost a word with almost out definition. Sometimes it means to, toward, with. But he derived teachings, Torah teachings, from this almost untranslatable word S. Until he got to the pasuk, it says, Es Hashem elachatira. Hashem, your God, you should fear. So he wasn't able to to connect anything with the fear of God. He couldn't sort of include anything with that. Until he was taught by another, the S comes to include your Rebbe. To teach you that Mora Rabcha is Kamar Shemayim, that the reverence that one has for his Rebbe is like the reverence one has for Hashem. So Chazal said a very bold thing. They said that the Mora, the reverence that one's supposed to have for a Rebbe is like Mora Shemayim. So I was saying from that story, from that when he felt that Talmud felt the fear he had for Hashem, that reverence he had for God, and he felt it in the Shalom Aleichem that he received from Rebbe Shlomo of Karlin, he knew this was his Rebbe. But that type of reverence, and we learned in the Gemara and Brachos, we learned that one that says Shalom Aleichem, like one who greets his Rebbe. What does the Gemara say?
It says I should say Shalom Aleichem Rebbe.
But what does it say? The Gemara says if you say Shalom Aleichem, you cause the Shekhinah to depart from Israel. Right? You cause the divine presence to leave Israel. It says no sin Shalom Rabbi. If you say Shalom to your Rebbe, if you say Shalom, you cause the divine presence to leave the Jewish people. So what do you mean? What are you supposed to do? Ignore him? So Rashi says, because you're saying Shalom, and you're not acknowledging, you're not saying it with a reverential feeling of Shalom Alecha Rebbe, Shalom Alecha to my Rebbe. You say Shalom, like how are you? I say what's up? What's going on? Right? If you say that, you cause the Shekhinah to leave Israel. Rather, the person says Shalom Alecha Rebbe. Again, so the idea that we wouldn't greet our Rebbe, how's it going? What's up? I would never speak to my Rebbe in that way. Shulchan Aruch says, how are you supposed to greet your Rebbe? Shulchan Aruch says that you do it, you're supposed to lean forward as if to lean your head in a prostrated position. Say, Shalom Alecha Rebbe Umori. Peace unto you, my Rebbe, my teacher. Anyone that has a Rebbe would never think of approaching the Rebbe and saying, what's going on? What's up? How's it going? It completely lacks reverence. Before I saw the Shulchan Aruch, I understood that to greet my Rebbe like that. Then when I saw the Shulchan Aruch, I said, oh, that makes sense. There's a certain sense that a person is supposed to have of reverence. This is a Rebbe. So the approach, the greeting, how that is different. Not every rabbi is going to be one's Rebbe. So let's talk a little bit about a Rebbe. So today, I think that the idea of a Rebbe is in most cases different. There are tzaddikim today, and they are of this caliber that if you would meet them, and this you say, this is my Rebbe, then the appropriate relationship would be bittul. There are people today of such spiritual caliber that would be an appropriate response. Doesn't mean that person's your Rebbe, but if a person would say, this is my Rebbe, we have people, tzaddikim today, bittul, surrender, would be an appropriate response. But not every Rebbe we meet is going to be, number one, our Rebbe, and it won't be of that caliber. So when you speak about, I think, a Rebbe today, I'll start with a young person. Even though, let's say, in the classroom, they're saying it's appropriate for a student to call the teacher Rebbe, it doesn't mean that the person is his Rebbe. In a sense. Rebbe usually happens in the life of a young person when they develop a certain maturity, a certain spiritual awareness, where they begin to recognize their own qualities, they begin to take very seriously their spiritual path, and they find within another individual someone that they see as more knowledgeable in Torah, mature and advanced in life, someone that has exemplary character, and this is probably the most key, one that there seems to be a certain resonance between this person and that teacher. There's a certain connection, a certain connectivity that they feel. And in the life of a young person, they meet a person like that, they may say, this is my Rebbe. And it's not anything you can really sort of put down in like so definitive, but it's usually the collection of these types of points. And where there's a certain connection that can't really be explained by words, but there's a certain resonance between, you could say, personalities, neshamos, and it could be shared strengths. Like where a person may recognize that this person has this strength, but it's just developed into a great person, and I recognize I have that strength. I share that with the Rebbe. Or certain teachings that a Rebbe emphasizes, a certain path, and that speaks to that person. For example, many people coming from outside of observance have drawn very close to Rav Nachman of Breslov, teachers of that, because Rav Nachman has a certain derech, a certain path. There's an emphasis of certain ideas and practices, and there's a type of spiritual language that very much connects with many people, especially many people coming from outside, which is why you find today, for example, just in Breslov, why it's such an attractive movement to people that are from the outside, because there is something in Rav Nachman and his teachings and his fire that just speaks to a spiritual seeker. Rav Nachman said about himself, he said, "Man fire vet brennen bis Mashiach vet kemen." My fire will burn until Mashiach comes. And Hebrew, "Ha'esh shali tukan ad bias Mashiach." My fire is going to burn until Mashiach comes. So there's something Rav Nachman. It's alive. That just captures people. And why you find just so many people that have come to Breslov specifically from the outside. But that speaks to a certain resonance that there is between the seeker and a certain sense they have and the Rebbe. So they don't know all the ideas, they don't know the concepts, it's not developed, it's just the beginning, but they can see it. They have a sense, this is where I want to go. This speaks to me, this connects with me. I want to know more about this. I want to be on this path. So that type of thing also sometimes happens when one finds a Rebbe, finds a teacher, a certain connectivity because of emphasis of ideas that sort of speaks to the core of that person's neshama, that this is what I'm about, and I find it over here. So when that type of thing happens, then a person would say, this is my Rebbe. It's not to say that later on in life, a person may grow and may come in contact with other people, and they may find someone new, someone different, that is their Rebbe. They may grow as a person, and they may find someone perhaps of a higher spiritual quality that they now connect with. They may come in touch with different teachings and now speak with them. So that is the nature of what that relationship is. I'm just, please don't want people to jump in and ask any questions or make comments. I'm just going off. Now, this type of Rebbe that I'm describing is not necessarily a tzaddik. And one has to be very careful with this word, tzaddik. When people speak about tzaddikim, there is no election that the person runs in to earn such a thing. There is no such board that sort of approves this person now to be called tzaddik. There's no, as they say, vetting process of how the person now accepted as that's tzaddik. There is a sense, I think, within the Jewish people of being able to spiritually recognize individuals. Now, already that's already a very, very delicate place. Because of course, once we leave something that is, you earn a title by election or by scientific, process, so then things are a little bit more vague and less defined, and it can be subject to error. So it could be, that you can have a person of great charisma. People think he's a tzaddik, and he's not a tzaddik. And that may not be so simple to distinguish. We cannot sort of rely on sort of hard facts for this. If you want to say a person is a chacham, a scholar, okay, so then there's certain measures that we could define the person is a chacham. And a person is a chacham, he says, well, I have this area of knowledge. Well, okay, we'll test you. And if you really know it, then it's true you're of that area of knowledge, what I'm saying. So that's a little bit more clear. The person, if you're saying is a chacham, is a scholar, so that's more simple, more clear to define. We talk about tzaddik, well, it's like when Shmuel HaNavi was told to pick the next king, and Hashem told him it's going to come from this family, Yishai's family. So he goes and he sees his eldest son. He's got presence. He has saying he's stolz, and Shmuel says, "Oh, this is the one." And Hashem says to him, "No, it's not the one." He says, "The next one also, character standing." Shmuel says, "This is the one. It's not the one." And he goes through all the sons of Yishai, thinking, "Oh, this must be the one that's king." And Hashem told him that man sees with his eyes and God sees to the heart. Until it was so David, when no one never thought. The stone that everyone despised, he became the foundation. As David said about himself. No one thought that this is the one. So when you talk about tzaddik, so it's not a simple thing. So I'll start from one extreme. One extreme, the people that don't have any sense of what a tzaddik means, just will simply dismiss anybody like that. So, well, it's just a person's a charismatic fellow. That person as a cult leader. That's a popular one people will throw out. That person is hypnotizing others. Right? That person is using others for their benefit. So that's one camp and one extreme. That comes from a lack of recognition of what it means to be a tzaddik. That comes from a lack of learning. It comes from ignorance of learning in Sfarim of what is a tzaddik. What does it really mean to have spiritual qualities? What does it mean to acquire and to work and to attain something? And it comes from a lack of being in the presence of great people. And so everybody that you see becomes like a mirror image of you. So therefore, even this happens in the Torah. When I see that Moshe Rabbeinu must be like me. So Moshe Rabbeinu, so I'm going to start to explain Moshe Rabbeinu according to my faults, my challenges. Everything becomes a mirror of that person's own foibles. And that is absolutely off. It completely misses what this is because it's a place of ignorance. A place of ignorance of learning. What is it, tzaddik? And a place of lack of experience, exposure. Like the Piasasna, Sabbath the Piasasna said that, but a person that came to him, he felt he had feelings of feeling he's greater than others, feeling haughty. He says, your problem is that you're the greatest person in your peer group. If you be the tail of a lion, you'd understand who you are, what you are. You wouldn't hold yourself in that place. But you're the head of foxes. So that's what you think, the way you do. So that's one sort of one camp of, when we use that word tzaddik, of those views. Now, some of those feelings are not without validation, because the fact is that people have been burned. And sometimes people that are thought to be authentic have been turned out to be phony. And that's the most damaging thing in spirituality. When someone that is trusted and someone that is thought to be of a certain caliber turns out not to be. And these are the stories of people that have left, wherever they're coming from, have left because of a misuse of power, but even more misuse of power, where a person felt they were lied to. They felt that they were given the impression in a certain way, and it turned out the person is not like that. And those types of occurrences that happen, unfortunately happen, and they're in the news. They're in the news now. Are extremely damaging for the concept of tzaddik, for their relationship, what it's supposed to be. And it gives fuel to people from this camp to further these views. Because you see, here's a person that earned the trust of people, and they were innocent in believing, and he took their money, God forbid worse, with misused relationships, often with females, and this is the desecration of God's name of the highest order, and the most damaging. So there is a certain understanding of where that camp is coming from because of events, but that camp is missing out, essentially. In other words, yes, we can sort of understand or validate, but when you're missing the essential concept, there's no excuse for that. And so that approach, that hashkafa, is built out of a lack of understanding of what a tzaddik is, of what a level is, what a madriga is, and they never experienced it. They've experienced scholars, academics, but not saintliness, not holiness. So that's sort of one camp and one extreme, and then where that's coming from. On the other end, you have people that I can't get into this next one yet because I have to pause here at 10:30, so I'm just going to leave it here. This is a very big sugya, a very big topic. This one needs to be fleshed out well in all of its components to really understand, the approach of what it means to have a Rebbe, today, to understand what a tzaddik is, and then to understand what the appropriate relationships are to these types of individuals. So I should have a meaningful fast. The essence of a tiness of a fast is for a person to be able to do tshuva. So the day shouldn't go by without a person taking time to be alone and to doing tshuva, because Yisrael, the Jewish people, are a whole. And it's not about a past people that did something, but it's about Yisrael as a whole. So we should have the opportunity to engage in genuine tshuva today, and to use the Tainus fast for real elevation, real forward progress, for real tikkun, correction and elevation that it's supposed to be.